I now call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7:12 p.m. Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Schubert?
Here.
Ms. McCall?
Present.
Ms. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Ms. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 7 present, we have a quorum.
We will now take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. As we start each board meeting, it bears reminding that the mission of Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in a first-class, equitable education for a changing world. Before going any further, I want to thank Ms. Kim Pedersen and Aaron Hill, who are working behind the scenes to produce the board's broadcast via YouTube live stream and Comcast Channel 20. I also wish to welcome student advisory, student Denisha, Santa Hernandez from East High School. We will now recognize and celebrate outstanding contributions of our staff. And Ms. Stanford, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. We're excited to recognize some of Rockford Public Schools' outstanding students tonight. Please come up when you hear your name called. Over the summer, the YMCA of Rock River Valley held its Emerging Leaders Challenge. It's part of a larger national YMCA program called Boys and Young Men of Color, or BYMOC. This strategy builds on and invests in pathways to success to help boys and young men of color reach their full potential. In its inaugural year, the Emerging Leaders Challenge provided opportunities for 17 high school-age students to participate in this leadership development program. 16 of those students are part of RPS 205. During the 6-week program, students received pay, completed projects, and competed for the possibility of cash awards by excelling in the challenge. BYMOC strives for equitable outcomes for boys and young men of color, ages 11 to 17, by removing systemic barriers, providing relevant services and support systems, and creating nurturing environments that promote confidence and growth. Programming focuses on education, college and career readiness, character development, belonging and community building, and health and well-being. The main areas of focus for the Emerging Leaders Challenge include marketing, finance, fund development, and human resources. The following RPS 205 students participated in the program. For Team Sprite, Vidalis Cockrell and Marcario Guerra from Jefferson, Jose Gonzalez from Auburn, and Jeremiah Walker from Guilford. For Team Soldiers, Dante Conway and Sam Skimmer from Auburn, Amir Neal from Guilford, and Kendrick Howard from East. For Team Blue, Jaden Whitfield and Jahir Cooper from Guilford, Noah Livingston and Eric Lester from Auburn. And for Team Knights, Jacoby Flores, Ezekiel Patterson, and Edquin Simeon Sanders from Auburn, and Azarian Harris from Guilford. Congratulations. 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 Congratulations to the team Knights on the first place win. You all should be very proud of yourselves. Thank you for coming tonight. Now I'm going to pass the floor to Dr. Gallagher for welcoming new building administrators.
Good evening, board members. Wanted to take a moment now that the school year has started and all of our school administrator vacancies are being filled. Just want to take a moment to welcome the 24 school administrators that are new to their roles. I intentionally requested that they not attend tonight. I felt conflicted saying, hey, welcome to the district. Could you effectively work a 12-hour day to stay for a 7 p.m. board meeting? But still do want to take a moment to acknowledge them, and I'm very excited for all of you to be able to meet them as you're on your visits with your schools and your sub-districts. So we have 7 principals that are new to their roles, all of whom were already school administrators with RPS 205. 7 principals are Julie Chandler at Nashville, Brad Smith with IB at Conklin, Tatiara Bivens at West, Brian Lamb at Ellis, Megan Green, who's the new Kappa and Gifted principal at Auburn, John Smeltzer at Roosevelt, Desi Ritzel at Gregory. We have 11 assistant principals that are new to their roles, including 9 of which that are new to the district. We have Brian Steele at West, Nicole Brady at Auburn, David Wood at Lewis Lemon, Sarah Watson at Jefferson, Scott Erdman at West, Reed Jutras at Ellis, David Higgs at Hillman, Crystal Porzel at McIntosh, Sally Medeiros with IB at Conklin, and Greg Bennett at Barber. We have 5 deans beginning in cohort 5 of the NIU Principal Residency Program. They are Breon Bennett at Cherry Valley, Mitch Wilson at Constance Lane, Brianna Davis at Froberg, Karina Valdez at Johnson, and Claudia Zuba with Rolling Green. And last but not least, we have 1 member of our inaugural Rockford University Urban Education Administrator Licensure Program that is already serving as a dean, and that is Britton Solverson at Westview. And so in sum, we just want to welcome these new administrators to RPS 205, and we very much value your leadership. Thank you all.
To slightly go off script, I'll be with the petitioners right now, but I want to pause and thank Mr. Earl Dotson Jr. for the many years that he served at RPS 205. And I am so sorry I was not able to get away from work on yesterday to be here. But I want to say this. I know of Earl, and I know his humble beginnings. I know where he came from, and I've witnessed how he have progressed personally and professionally. I appreciate his efforts in going into the schools, and he would go for one purpose, and a situation would occur, and he would be right there to be an aid to the staff, to help those youth, the young man specifically that was really struggling that day. So I can't say enough about his efforts in trying to reach our scholars in a more personable way. And he was so relatable because of his life experiences. You know, Earl was not the perfect child when he was in school. And that is not a secret. But he had a mother and that made sure, parents that made sure that they will do whatever they needed to do to make sure that he was successful in his academia and to matriculate on in life to be successful professionally. He has served our community in so many facets, and he does not sound an alarm about what he's doing. He just simply do it. So he have conversations at tables that we know not of, and he's advocating for individuals that we know not of. And I want you to know, Mr. Dotson, that your labor have not been in vain, and it is most appreciated, and we definitely wish you well in your continued endeavors in life. You're welcome. Some things you probably should, this is why you should follow the script. We are now on to the petition and communication portion of our meeting, where we invite the public to make comments. The board will not respond to the comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you will be contacted in a timely manner by staff. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 3 minutes to address the board. It is not appropriate to discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meetings. If you look to your left, you will see 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted to public comments, and the other shows the total time for each speaker. We thank you for your cooperation with our guidelines. The first 2 will be Angel Brown and Miss Nina.
Hello, board members. My name is Angel Brown. Excuse me. The reason that I keep coming here is because I am a one Army woman, and I'm gonna fight for what's right for my son. And my son have asthma. He got it from the school. He inhaled dust for 5 months, which everyone know up there. No one have not called me and told me anything. You send, the executive director of schools sending me a letter telling me the district understands the stated position that I regard to my student health. If it was, he wouldn't have never been kicked out. He have doctor's notes from all the times that he was out of school. He have a chronic illness, so it's not fair to me. So I'm still going to fight for what's right. And the policy and the procedure need to change, so I feel like the board should be involved when a kid has to go to their home school. It should be a hearing, so the parent or whomever could bring whatever documentation that they have to help the board see what that child was going through from January to June. Out of those months, my son was sick out of 4 of those months with doctor's letters. So you tell me, how is that fair? It's not. The last thing that I would like to say is, us parents do not want to keep going through traumatic things that we're going through with principals, with schools. We know the difference between allegedly and facts. We know the difference between involve and protect. I feel like I know how this board go, because I've been waiting on 5 years to tell me why my daughter wasn't safe when she was at Flynn School. I would ask, but I know it's not appropriate to ask that type of question, but why wasn't she safe? Maybe that principal could tell you after he leaves why my daughter is not safe. And thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nina Gianangeli. I'm a resident of District 205, an educator in a neighboring school district, and a member of the Education Committee of Eliminate Racism 815. Our mission is to be passionate advocates of equity-driven policies and practices for the Rockford Public Schools so that all students will be prepared for social and academic success. The percentages of teachers of color have not markedly improved for many years. RPS 205 states this is due to a very limited supply of applicants and that every school district is trying to hire teachers. RPS 205 points to their Grow Our Own programs to provide university training and degrees for teachers. This takes time and having youth wanting to return to Rockford to live and work, as well as RPS 205 providing a positive, supportive work climate. We feel that teachers are not just leaving for higher paying jobs. There should be some gain in persons of color in the total figures. The RPS 205 FOIA data clearly indicates that RPS 205 is losing teachers of color and white teachers every year at a rate faster than can be replaced. For teachers of color, it was 22% in the years 2022 through 23 school year. The figures for 23 and 24 are not yet available. The 2022-23 school year, there were only 49 African American teachers, and 11 of them, 22%, left the district. Rockford Public Schools will never make progress in having a similar percentage of teachers of color who look like their students teaching in RPS if it continues to lose 22% each year. The average percent of each demographic who leave the school district is 13%. The percent of African Americans leaving the district was 22% in 2022 and 23. Why is the percent so high? Thank you.
Thank you. John Tack Bradley, followed by Ricky Naylor.
Good evening, board members. You know, Jesus Christ told his disciples, the work is plentiful, but the workers are few. I'm going to piggyback off of you because Earl Dyson Jr., the apple don't fall far from the tree. Your parents been very dedicated to helping my organization for the past decade. I'm going to miss you because the bus and the meetings that we had helping our kids, you played a major role behind the scene. Coming tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I got a meeting with the principal. Hopefully, Morgan, I see Earl Dawson Jr. is not here, so we having a meeting at McIntyre School. Right now, you know, I was at Fairground transporting 20 and 30 kids to school every day. It is no longer Fairground, but we do got Auburn Manor, and they got over 40 kids at Auburn Manor that's walking to school. I plan on putting a dent in that. I'm glad to hear the Code and Conduct Committee is implementing our Scared Straight. We did Scared Straight this summer, which I already talked about, but we got to follow up behind Scared Straight. We organized a coalition. That coalition consists of Tommy Minks, Gina Minks on the city council, Tim that's on the Winnebago County Board, that's the director of the Palm Funeral Home. We got Lamont Jones from the Park District. We got Earl Dawson Jr. Dr. Reed from the school board. I miss you, Earl. And we also got we got Rockford Housing Authority. We got the 5 pillars. Them 5 pillars, we're gonna be meeting with the different cliques that's been fighting each other and been shooting each other, been causing trouble in school and been causing trouble in the streets. When we meet with these cliques, we got if they need a job, we're gonna help them get a job. If they need vocational training, we're gonna help them with vocational training. If they need a GED, we're going to help them with a GED. If they need life skill, we're going to help them get a life skill. We're not going to sit idly by, and we're giving them 3 choices. And when we meet, we got 3 different churches that we're going to meet at. We're not letting them people know the time or the date or the place, but with our coalition, we're going to put a dent in the crime and the number of our youth getting suspended and expelled out of school. Them kids that's getting suspended, we're going to take 15 and 20 of them and do the Scared Straight program and then we're going to follow up with our coalitions as to address their concerns that's going on with them. They have 3 options. Number 1 option, they can put the gun away and turn their life around. Number 2 option is the jail. Number 3 option is the graveyard. They have a choice of picking number 1. We have a meeting with the Sheriff's Department, the Detective Unit. We had a meeting with the Rockford Police Department. Both units is tickled pink about what we're doing because it takes the community to make a change with what's going on with our youth. And like I said, once again, if you don't have a doctorate and a PhD in these streets, you're just an educated fool, and you need us to help.
Mr. Bradley, your
turn
time
our
is
kids'
up.
life around. Thank you.
Thank
I need
you.
another 3 minutes.
Easy.
Good afternoon, board. Good evening. Okay, just let everybody know, I've been told to, for some powerful people in I don't live in this city. For the people that don't know, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, but we come down here from Chicago and Madison most of the time to help this community out here. But now I've been told, like, you know what, Mr. Naylor, leave those administrators alone and deal directly with those board members. And I think that's true, because this is one of the few boards that we go to where the administration runs the board. It's not should be like that, because you guys just known as final approval. You don't come up with no new ideals. At least you don't put them in the papers. That you don't put anything out there that let anybody know what y'all doing. I keep saying this over and over again. What is your communication department doing to let people know what y'all doing? We don't hear anything. Now, those staff of color that these people hire and this board approves, they don't even give y'all the truth of what's going on in the community. Now, a lot of people in that community right now, they say the 7th floor of this building is the plantation headquarters. That's why they don't come down here unless y'all giving out these little trinkets and everything. They don't come down here and speak out unless they're concerned, like this one parent is concerned about her kid. They don't come down here. And then another thing, other boards, when you got a contract dispute with those employees, it's out in the open. We don't know what y'all do down here. Like, we had the same thing in Madison with a contract. The union said we want 4%. The board said you get 0. Then eventually they got to they got 2%, and they said, we'll give you the other 2% if we pass referendum. Y'all down here don't say nothing. Nothing comes out. The people come down and complain about, well, we can't get paid. We can't get paid. We can't get paid. But we haven't heard nothing about what this board thinks about that pay. Nothing. And another thing too, we want to do a poverty summit here in Rockford, and we want the school district to because since you're the largest employer, we want you to lead the way. But you can't lead the way when you pay your own workers slave labor, slave wages. So we're hoping that you guys, one of these days, you ask Mr. Brown over there, said, Mr. Brown, what would it cost to give these guys whatever, $15, $16, $18? What would that cost? You never do that. You just let these guys tell you things, and then eventually you approve it or not approve it. You never say, we want to solve this problem. Just say, Mr. Brown, work the numbers out. That's the same thing everybody said. What would it cost us? And sometimes it might be a big number, but at least you got a number what you can see in order to try to fix this problem. So you can, in a few months, we can come back and say, okay, Rockford School District, lead the way with this poverty summit. They did the same thing in East St. Louis, Illinois. Mr. Geiger know about it. He'll tell you about it. And I'm going to leave this here for you guys to read about.
Thank you, Mr. Naylor.
Some superintendents that we got up there, too.
We are now on to the Stakeholder Committee. Cipher Government Strategies will present their update. Thank you.
The Stakeholders Committee has a feature presentation tonight. We'd like to welcome to the floor Mike Cassidy and Amy Ballinger-Cole from the Zephyr Government Strategies team to give us a legislative update on what's happening in Springfield and how it impacts RPS 205. Take it away.
Is on now? Yeah. I now know why Earl Dotson wanted me to come today, so he could see everyone say nice things about him, and I appreciate that. This guy obviously has had a serious commitment to public service his entire career, and I started in this business 22 years ago in this town, and knew him then, and so always a smile on his face and just kind of really proud of you, man, and super excited to see your future. So really, really appreciate it. Again, Michael Cassidy, Zephyr Government Strategies, President Pearson, members of the board, thank you for letting us present today. I have with me also Amy Ballinger-Cole. We have been working with this board for about 11 years. When I started doing this, Rob Blagojevich was governor, Chris Cohn was county board chair, Doug Scott was mayor, and I've seen politics change a lot, right? And they still do. And this board takes on a lot, and things in Springfield and the federal government continue to change. So we appreciate that patience and deference when we go through all this. Our firm and our efforts, we try to remain bipartisan, but I think for the sake of everything else, we'd like to be brief. We have no PowerPoint today. We're just going to kind of cover 4 topics. And I think what's very great about this relationship is that if it's not through this committee, we have always been as very kind of proactive and responsive to not only members but staff. And so this is a presentation, but I think that these types of relationships are always fluid, and we love the feedback. So we're happy to answer questions today, but we're also happy to have communication. So we really appreciate it. With that being said, I'll let Amy talk a little bit about herself as well, too.
Hello, everyone. Amy Ballinger-Cole. I will save the good words about you, sir, till the end of my presentation, but I'm just dying to go for it now. But I'm going to wait because I'm like you. I had tears in my eyes when you were giving Earl compliments because he deserves them. Amy Ballinger-Cole. I started out on the House of Representatives Appropriations, Research and Appropriations staff. When I, did that, I looked at every single piece of legislation that moves through the General Assembly, House and Senate, and I had to explain it to the Speaker, make sure they knew what was going on, including staff. Did that for some years. After that, became a government relations director at a reform organization in education, and I've really only ever lobbied in education. I haven't had any clients outside of that. Michael and I make a great team, I think, because Michael absolutely loves the politics side, and I like politics too, but I love nothing more than a really long education policy committee. And I know that is not how everyone is built, but that's how I'm built. So we make the best team, I think, ever. I couldn't believe today when he said that we've been doing this 11 years with Rockford. So he was nice enough to bring me along, and we've done nothing but enjoy it, I think. It's been a good experience.
Thank you. We want to talk a little about what lobbying is, right? It's somewhat obvious, but it's just kind of a one-on-one, like what our role is, what we do. We do state and federal lobbying for the district, right? And we kind of try to bring government to the board. If you can't make it to Springfield, you can't make it to DC, we try to find ways to bring our delegation or other members that impact education to Rockford and hear that. And I think perfect examples are, again, Earl's helped with this. We do a legislative breakfast every year, and obviously some of these board members are familiar with this, but we like to bring in both sides of the aisle, House and Senate, and have a chance to just dialogue with them, right? Sometimes they have a lot of constituent concerns, everything else. Our job is to bring that right to you guys as well. We also like to bring elected officials as high up as the governor or other members of Congress to Rockford to hear your guys' concerns and issues, right? So again, it's as important of us trying to advocate for you, but it's also important to bring them here to see what this district's doing and to hear from all these board members. Kind of lobbying, simple, kids ask all the time, different questions of, Dad, what do you do for a living? But it's really 3 simple things, and I can give you an example on the state side. We do legislative items, we do budget items, and we do a lot of what could be called rulemaking or issues at the agency level. Legislative, there were 7,000 bills introduced in the past 2 sessions, right? Of those, our job is to comb through all those that are obviously education focused and that do or don't impact our district. Second, on a budget, it's a $53 billion budget for the state of Illinois. Our job is to navigate things that obviously impact education and, of course, this school district, right? And then 3, and I think Amy will give a little more insight to this, is that if bills are passed in Springfield and the governor signs into law, it's not done just then. Oftentimes, agencies are given a great deal of authority to implement various complex bills. Amy, you want to speak a little bit about ISB?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, when I started in this world, I was looking at every piece of legislation that had to do with education, and that was with like a politician cap on, because that's the folks that I worked for. How would it affect them? Now I still am looking at every single piece of legislation in the area of education that's filed in the state, and my cap is my Rockford cap, right? It's how would this affect my clients? What do they think about it? You know. Also, the State Board of Education. So the Illinois State Board of Education meets monthly, I'm sure as you all know. Every education issue that you possibly can imagine goes through them, right? So we make sure we monitor everything they're working on. Are there grants that are available? What's happening? What task forces are they working on? There's always 50 of them, right? They're thinking about all these different policies. They bring their own legislative agenda every year to the Capitol building. We're looking at those. So we attend those, so you don't have to. We let you know if there's anything that affects you. We let you know if Rockford's name comes up, good or bad, and we want to make sure you know what's happening without all of you. You have jobs, you have lives, so we try to do that for you all, and we're happy to do it. And I think at this point we should ask, do you all have questions sort of just about that lobbying 101? Sometimes people just know, like, a lobbyist is what they see on TV, and sort of like, what is it in real life? So any questions, anyone?
Any questions? What is lobbying or what they do?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I want to first thank Mr. Cassidy and Ms. Amy for coming to bring this update. And maybe I do have a question. So I understand that, well, I'd like to use the word advocacy. And so I would think that you all are advocating very strong for the needs of public schools in Illinois, specifically RPS 205. So on the federal level, so we have the state and we have the federal. And I am very appreciative of what the state provides for us. It is not a secret that transportation is a huge problem. And so the state of Illinois says that the public school does not have to provide transportation if you're less than 1.5 miles away from school, which has negatively impacted our attendance. Now, I also believe that, we have to do some things despite of what the state is providing. But I would ask that you all continue to advocate for us for this on both the state and the federal level. So some of us just recently attended the COSBA Federal Advocacy Conference. And we had an opportunity to go to the Capitol and meet with legislators there. And it was very receptive, but there were many topics from mental health, the Disabilities Act, and I can't stress enough how important it is to really apply the pressure wherever you can for a positive outcome for us. The state cannot bear the burden of public education by itself, and there is no secret that the threat of public education is serious. And it is concerning of what the future for public education looks like. So what if you had to name the top 3 priorities? Now there's many, right, priorities. But what are the top 3 priorities that you, if I can use the word advocacy, what you're advocating for our district?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is obviously based off of conversations with you and other board members, as well as some of the stakeholder conversations of other entities throughout the state. Hands down, evidence-based funding is number 1 for us, right? This district fares very well under that. And I think staff and Superintendent Jarrett have highlighted many times issues that we could connect asks to evidence-based funding, right? School reforms don't happen that often in Springfield or at the federal level. And when they do, Board Member Pearson, it's an opportunity to add a lot of different issues and items, but I think EBF is obviously, in my opinion, and we'll take feedback too, number one for us. It's one that we have to protect, and it's one that we have to figure out to increase, especially for this school district. Second, this is again coming feedback from you and others, is capital funding is a big concern, right? Our needs for facilities, maintenance and upkeep is a no-brainer, especially the district this size. Amy and I have been very fortunate through those legislative breakfasts to visit East and a lot of the high schools that some of these folks, these young adults attend and see those needs. And I think from both the federal and state side, that's one that will always be a big issue for us, and one that I'd hope that state and federal could help with. And then third, we've also seen, well, actually, I'll let you handle this one, and I think it'd probably be best with pension.
With the pension?
Yeah.
Right, so we were just speaking right before the board meeting with Dr. Brown about some pension issues that you all are looking at, some costs that are coming to RPS that you don't feel like should be what they are. And I guess what is that conversation with the state? And let me just first say, we meet with this committee because, so I'm an education consultant, right, an education lobbyist, but never is that, oh, what does Amy Ballinger-Cole think should happen in the state of Illinois with education? Because I am not an expert. You all are, the teachers are, the administrators are. So we're listening to you of like, this is what's important to us. We take your lead because you all know this is your community. You know what's sort of like bubbling to the top. What we know is when in Springfield, there's an opportunity to actually do that thing, right? Like we can see a window, like they've opened that window. We've heard Dr. Jarrett talk about that. Hey, Dr. Jarrett, looks like that might move. What would you like in there? And then we're going back and forth, right? So I just first want to say that. So like with this issue, with the pension issue, we hear it bubbling up. I had a conversation today with John Berkey from the Large Unit District Association. He's talking to all of his members about this same issues where Dr. Brown is gathering data from your district so that we can then bring that to the state, say, hey, this doesn't seem fair. This seems like it's costing us more money than it should. Let's have that conversation, and then where is there room to move within that? So yes, so again, you bring it to us. We figure out what we can do about it. We figure out where the General Assembly is. We try to bring that delegation to you so they know you, they know that we represent you, and they're ready to hear from us what your priorities are. Does that help?
It does help. Does anyone else have? Okay. One other thing, I understand the writing of bills and the passing of bills. And sometimes there's money involved in the bills. Sometimes, you know, whatever the case is. But what I've noticed that there's not necessarily follow through with the money that's attached to the bill. And how are you addressing that?
It's an excellent question, as it is for any elected board, right? The state of Illinois has wrestled with its fiscal challenges since I can never remember, and I think the federal government is the same. So what it really gets down to is what the General Assembly or the federal government sees as a priority. And, you know, board member, you highlight, you know, transportation as an important issue. I can't remember a governor or a General Assembly trying to cut education funding, and politically speaking, that's one that even under a former governor where there was budget battles, education funding always got funded, right? And so I think the piece of it is defending what has been appropriated and also always increasing. And so I think there's ways to improve those asks, right? And always do more. But working in other spaces beyond education, I've seen some significant reductions, and mental health is one, or even transportation in a sense. And so I think in the whole, education funding obviously will be and should be a priority of any governor, any president, any Congress, any General Assembly. And I think we've asked that question of our own delegation when we bring them to that legislative breakfast, right? They sit on various committees. They have various priorities themselves while they ran for office, just like this board. And so I think you said it best. I mean, it needs to rise to the top and be number one and continue to be number one. And I can't think of a spot where.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the state of Illinois, we have historic levels of education funding, right? But we have historic levels of need. And there was always need that we weren't talking about, right? Also with like the capital bills, it's always it's a question when those, come about, where Michael and I could decide that we're the people, we're not even going to bother, because you know what happens? We get them in there and then they have to wait, and the bill is underfunded, and then people just get frustrated. We always just make the choice, let's get them in there. You're at least in line, right? We wish we sort of like had the magic wand to could, make it happen quicker. All we can do is make sure, again, that delegation has you on their mind. They know you, they know the need, they know us, they know who to contact, and then we put those things together. So that's what we work really hard to do. It's important to us. I think we both care about it a lot. We all know, state government, federal government, far from perfect. So we just do our very best to work within that system to, bring the best things to light for Rockford.
Thank you very much. I have one more ask, Mr. Carpenter, and then, so Senator Tammy Duckworth made a commitment while we were in Washington in regards to the Disability Act and the federal funding for schools to improve facilities for handicap accessibility for students and their families. Will you please keep a watch on that?
We promise we will.
Unfortunately, which we've learned the hard way, is state government by constitution has to pass a budget within a calendar year in Illinois. The federal government does not. And so what we're seeing, and we're going to see in this month, is the continuing resolution and a divided Congress, that issues like that and others get held up and get negotiated. And so that's that kind of delicate balance, whereas Senator Duckworth has also been terrific on a member initiative that dealt with education pathways in Rockford College, I believe. And that's an earmark we've been working on for 2 years, and it continues to get kind of wrapped up in budget negotiations. And so you raise a good point, right? It's that balance of, there's a lot of federal money that flows down to the states, but if the state, which again has its challenges, still has to pass a budget, still has to move bills, we have to find those places where we can win, because if Amy and I can move Congress, then we probably would be not sitting here right now, right? And I wish we could. We're a good team. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
You were mentioning funding, I guess, and not being decreased, but of course, level funding is basically a decrease over a period of time. And so one of the things that we're dealing with, that I know you know about, is early childhood funding that's been level for many years. And so I was wondering, and obviously there's been a push for increasing early childhood access across the state, but it hasn't resulted in increased funding for the districts that have had early childhood, is my understanding. So I'm just wondering if there's any prospect for increases of that on the horizon.
Governor Pritzker, I think, has been an absolute champion of early childhood funding. It's starting at 0. I think for a very, very long time. So we have the correct governor in place, at least for that issue, that he really cares about that. He's starting a brand new agency, as you know, at the state level, where they're trying to combine early childhood funding is in all kinds of different budgets. And I think that causes sort of confusion. It's hard to advocate for something when I want money over here in this budget. Got to talk to those people. Oh, it's also in the education budget. And so I think they're trying to put it in one place where they can maybe cut down on things, on, duplicities, but also figure out just like where they're heading as a whole. And so I think that's a very exciting time for early childhood education. I don't think anyone can predict sort of how long that takes. Sometimes you unfortunately do have to be patient in the government, which you don't want to be, right? Because those kids that are 1 are going to be in kindergarten before you know it, right? So the time is clearly now. We know that, you know that. I think they know that. Government just doesn't always work as quickly as we would like. So I have some hope in that area. I'm happy to share with you sort of like what the lines look like this year. And then I'd love to hear from you what that looks like for Rockford, because that can sound really good. We can send you something and say, wow, look, the budget got all these increases in the lines, but what does that look like for Rockford? Yeah, closing that loop. Yeah, zero increase. So, yep. So conversations to be had for sure, and we understand, and I think it's absolutely on our minds as a top priority for the district. You're welcome. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Ms. Haley?
Quick one. I know that you mentioned that you don't have as much sway with the federal government as you do with the state government, and with that being said, there's the IDEA Act for the individuals with disabilities that support students who have in special education who may have IEPs. Historically, it's been around for about 25 plus years, but it's always been underfunded. I think we are funded at probably 8% in Illinois under that bill, where we were promised to be funded at 40%. Do you have any sway to get that increased?
Yeah, and let me be clear, it's an interesting conversation. When I was talking about federal government, it just historically has been a spot where it hasn't taken a normal path of how things work compared to the state, where there's even if it's a flat funding. So again, there's no bigger champion in Congress on that issue than Tammy Duckworth for many obvious reasons. And I know we've interacted with her here, but I think one of the goals we should potentially set in this coming year is potentially getting her here to this district to speak to that, because she is the biggest champion of that issue. And I think she'd be a person that, if and when those log jams do break, it would be helpful to have her in that spot to see a district like this and see its needs. So it's a great suggestion to kind of focus on and look at it. Just Congress trying to get anything passed, unfortunately, becomes that challenge. And so thankfully, we do have a member on that issue from our delegation that's an absolute, just couldn't do enough for it. And so let's find a way to get her here and have that conversation. That's a good idea.
Anyone else? I just want to say, being at the COSBA conference with some of my fellow board members has really opened my eyes to the potential impact that we have on state and federal legislation that I didn't really realize we had that potential to impact that. So as a member of my committee, the Internal External Stakeholders Committee, I am committed to becoming more focused on our legislation and what we can do about it and what it means to our district. And hopefully you all will be able to help us with that. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Earl. So Earl and I were Edgar Fellows together, a bipartisan group of fellowship that we were in together, and I was so happy to be with him and to meet him and get to know him over these years. And just every conference call that we do, and it's a lot, he just comes on with a smile and a joke and how you doing, and just that person that's like always happy to see you. You didn't even know you were having a bad day, and then you see this gentleman and he says hello, and he just lifts your spirits. You feel better. I can only imagine. I didn't have the easiest time, in school. It wasn't a straight path for me. It was a tough one, and you always remember the people like that you saw in the hallway, and your day instantly got better. And he's that guy, and that's not everybody. That's not a thing that comes without a whole lot of work of someone putting into someone, pouring into him. So I think you are just incredible. I will miss you. I consider you a friend, and I hope to see you many times in the future outside of this role. So.
I'm going to give the students a moment. Thanks again for coming. They did an excellent job. We are now on to the Governance Committee action. Is there a motion and a second to approve item 5A?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on to the performance and monitoring consent portion of the meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items listed in section 6?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any? Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you. Are there any consent items in section 6 the board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on the planning and development consent portion of our meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items in section 7?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any consent items in section 7 that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on to the governance consent portion of our meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items listed in section 8?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any consent items in section 8 that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on the closed session consent agenda, including appointment of Brian Steele as 10-month assistant principal assigned to West Middle School, appointment of Nicole Brady as 10-month assistant principal assigned to Auburn High School, resolution rejecting resignation of teacher Bumi Gubi, and HR organizational report. May I have a motion and a second to approve the items in section 9?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any closed session consent items that board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Please call the roll.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on student discipline, suspension, appeals, and expulsion. H001X, expelled for 2 calendar years through September 16, 2026. May I have a motion and a second to approve the item in section 10? Student discipline.
So moved.
Second.
Please Please call the roll.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on student discipline EIAs. May I have a motion and a second to approve item in section 11, the student EIA?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Schubert?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Ms. Haley?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Jarrett?
I really appreciate the opportunity to have the floor because this is a very special moment for me, and because I'm going to spend my time eventually going to hand the floor to Denisha, our student representative, who has a very powerful experience to share with the board. But first, I want to, if I can indulge the board, pay my tribute to Earl Dotson Jr., our Chief of Communications. And before I start in on Earl, I have to thank his lovely family that is represented here. His mother, Henrietta, Mike, our longtime board president, a great community pillar, could not ask for better leaders in our community. I'm grateful for both of you. Dennis, you've become a friend and an amazing part of our community. And Diane, I hope you know how I feel about you and how grateful I am for your friendship and all of the things you have done for our community as well. This is a powerful group of people that surrounds and bolsters Earl every day and helps make him the man he is, and they deserve recognition tonight, so I'm grateful for all of them. So when I think about Earl, I think about starting in 2011. Earl was coming from the county, and I was coming very wide-eyed and very naively from Hononegah High School as a high school principal into district leadership in Rockford with Earl. And we didn't know each other at that point, but we immediately connected as colleagues and ultimately as friends. And when I think of Earl's tenure in the Rockford Public Schools, I think of what I think should be a guiding question for any position we take in life, and is, did you leave the place that you worked in better than you found it? And when I think of Earl's many, many achievements, there's not a doubt in my mind we will be able to say that the Rockford Public Schools has greatly benefited from Earl's presence. There are some really basic things we can talk about, like overall improvements to the district's achievement levels, outcomes, brand and reputation that Earl had immense impact on. We can also talk on the very specific things Earl led, like multiple referendum campaigns that resulted in $700 million in facilities work that was done to positively impact our community. So much of that wouldn't have happened without you, Earl. But when I really think about the impact of Earl, it goes beyond those accomplishments that we could check off of a resume, and it goes on to the impact Earl had as a human being on other human beings in our district. The Rockford Public Schools has 28,000 students and over 4,000 employees. And if there's anyone that made an effort to know every one of them every year, it was Earl Dotson Jr. Earl could light up a classroom or a boardroom with equal quality. He could make a 6-year-old feel like a CEO, and at times he could make a CEO feel like a 6-year-old. Earl can connect with everyone in every room, and that's what I admire most about him, the way he connects his humanity with all people. And I've learned so much working beside you as I've watched that, and I aspire to continue to get better in that way that you connect with and know the people you work with. Earl is committed to thousands of school visits that he's done over the time, many of which we've gotten to see on the board with his lovely selfies that he takes. And you can see the way he impacts those folks. So again, ultimately, as Earl departs, we are going to lose a chief of communications. And I believe that some of the work functions that Earl provided, we will be able to replace. But what we will not be able to replace is Earl's character, his humanity, and the way he connected with our students, with our employees, and with our community in a way that will not be replaced or ever forgotten. Earl, you are a colleague, a friend, and a person that has left the Rockford Public Schools and our community significantly better than you found it. And we will stay in touch, and we will honored to have your presence here while we did. Thank you, Earl. Appreciate you. And I would love to now turn the floor over to our Superintendent Student Advisory Committee member, Denasia, who is our first speaker of the year and attended our first board meeting, committee meeting, and is now attending this one. And she is going to share some of her personal experiences as well as what she connected from the two meetings. So Denasia, the floor is yours, and thank you so much for being here. We're honored to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Jarrett, and also good evening, board. I would like to speak about some things that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. I was an expelled student. I got expelled my freshman year. I went through a bad path. But coming back junior year, I fixed it up. I got all my credits as much as I could. I powered through it. Okay. But what the schools don't tell you about is the things you have to do. You think you made it, but you really didn't. Okay. You still have to go through all the struggles. They don't communicate with you. For me, during my junior year when I had to come back, it was hard for me because I saw everybody leaving off campus and I couldn't go. I saw everybody taking the SAT, and the week of the SATs, 2 days before, I had to witness the fact that I couldn't take the SATs due to the fact that I didn't have my credits yet. Well, I got my credits, but it's the fact that I didn't have my credits during the start of the year, which is understandable. But when I think back at it, a situation I heard my fellow board from the SSAC is that some of the people said that the SATs are switching to ACTs, which it hurts to know that because I still haven't gotten my chance. I have to take my SATs this year. Not only that, I had to hear my own junior friend say that she wants to go to Harvard, okay? And she's brilliant, but I told her she has to, whether it's the SATs or the ACTs, be prepared for both, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen. But I think speaking now, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for every person who has been through expulsion. And I think when you come back to the school, what the schools really need to do is really be there for them. You would think that having somebody communicate with you and work with you throughout the expulsion would help. But the amount of people I had to see coming back to my school and see how they transitioned back, I was lucky enough that I didn't let my friends or any of the things that happen at school cloud my judgment, change my mind just because they're doing the wrong things and just because I see them doing it. Because I went through that path, and quite frankly, I did not like it. At the moment, I'm doing 5 things. I do the SSAC, I play flag football, I do STEP, which my friend founded at East. And not only that, I work, and I always make sure I have time for it. Right now, I am sitting at A's and B's, all because I am making sure that I can graduate. And not a lot of expulsion students who are coming back see it like that, because their school, when they come back, all they see is all eyes on me due to the fact of the mistake I made. But you know what? Since they're already on me, why not keep them on me? And that's one thing that I feel like we should improve, not only in the schools, but as the district. Because I went to Summit Academy and I saw each and every individual who has been through a rough path change. Some of them didn't, but they changed. But the minute they get back, they don't have that support. They don't have somebody there. They don't have somebody to say, you got this, continue. Because all they do is look at you, and they'll look at your record, and they say, what is stopping this person from not doing it again? That is one thing that I am passionate about, not only because I'm graduating this year, knowing that I powered through, but because I feel like I could make a change, and I know that these kids are better than this. I've seen it. But other than that, thank you, board.
And that concludes my report. And Denisha is such a powerful example for all of us. Her perseverance inspires me and our entire SSAC, and I'm so glad the board and the community had a chance to hear from her. So thank you for your courage and your perseverance, Denisha. We are so grateful for you.
Okay, are there any board members need any discussion or comments? Action steps of the business, new business, or agenda recommendations for any matters to discuss? We'll start from June around.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say something about Mr. Dotson, who has been my committee liaison for some time now, and really the first friend that I feel like I made at the district. I can't imagine the thousands of lives that you have touched, but you have touched mine, and you will be missed. But happy trails to you.
Ms. Bennett, or
Go ahead. Earl, I've known you a very long time, and it's good to have work with you on the board. And I'm sad to see you go, but happy that you're going to go into a good place, and good luck in your future.
Mrs. Bennett.
Okay, I have two items. So Earl has told us we all can visit, so we don't have to be sad. This doesn't have to be goodbye. My husband can come DJ. It'll be a great time. So yeah, so it's not goodbye. It's just see you later.
Yeah.
And then my second item that I wanted to bring up, so September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. There's a really good article, if people haven't seen it yet, on 205 Vibe that has resources information. But yesterday through work, I went to a grand opening for Marshmallows Hope. And so if anybody doesn't know about them, they're an organization that does pro bono counseling, all kinds of behavioral health, but they opened a brand new clinic, and it is lovely, and it is ginormous, and they're gonna be able to serve lots of youth. So I only have one brochure and one booklet, but it's just really exciting asset to have in our community, specifically around suicide prevention, so.
Vice President McCall. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to also thank Earl for all his work in the district and in the community. I've known you for a long time too, and we will miss you and appreciate you. Thank you.
Vice.
You know what's up.
Vice President McCall.
Ditto, no. Just honoring Earl. I remember the first time I met you. You may not remember. I was returning to Rockford, and I was starting my MBA. And I walked in the class. It was accounting. It was so scary. Like, I didn't take part 2 till the semester before I graduated. That's how bad it was. But no. And I thought to myself, oh, okay, yeah, we've got black people in here getting MBAs, okay. And then, just watching you throughout all the other things that you participate throughout the city and throughout the county, it's just been an honor to watch you just be yourself and inspire little black girls and little black boys to just be yourself, and you can go on and you can make a great career out of it. You can get your education, you can come back. You can have a full-time job and still be an upstanding member of the community, as well as a family man and husband and father, sorry. So have fun down there in Tampa, and whenever those storms come, I'll be thinking about you guys. Because I was thinking the other day, a couple weeks ago, it was a storm down there. I was like, oh no, that's where Earl and Diana's going to be moving. But, so I want to wish you guys well. And also, I'd be remiss not to mention my son, Justin McCall, Auburn High School Gifted and Kappa class of 2021, Honor Marching Band, NIU Junior, Air Force, what do you call it? He's an airman in the National Guard, and today he turns 22. So I just wanted to say, happy birthday to my son Justin, and I think that's it. Oh, keep it up. I've been trying to get as many football games and things like that. I'm learning a lot. Still don't know it all, but our students are very, very talented, and so I want to thank the students, the coaches, and the parents that bring kids out to have that extracurricular activity. And that's it.
Thank you. To our representative, Tanisha, I'm so appreciative of the story you shared today. And I want every student that have ever been in a situation where they were suspended or expelled, that there is hope. And congratulations on your comeback. You've done a phenomenal job, and best wishes to you. Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion in a second to, one last thing. For the emerging leaders, I had an opportunity to go. I wasn't able to stay. Vice President McCall told me she would stay. I trust that she did. She's been staying a lot for me at events, and I appreciate that. But I'm going to ask former board member Ms. Muhammad to stand at least, because she is, stand please, she is the mastermind for emergent leaders. And just to echo, to share, first of all, the entire group impressed me. But one group in particular, when it was time for them to come forth, they went and shook hands with every judge. And the winner was from Auburn, is that correct?
No, easy group. It was a couple.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
It was mixed.
Nonetheless, thank you so much. It gives hope. One of the students specifically indicated that he was on a bad path and he was being negatively influenced by other students. And he described himself as just doing bad things. But emergent leaders made the difference in his life. And I can't thank Ms. Muhammad enough for the impact she's made and the task that she's taken. She is sorely missed on the board, and there was a bit of a grief process, but when I see the work that she's doing, it eases that. Thank you again. Now I'll take a motion in a sec. Oh,
wait.
Ms. McCaw.
One thing I want to mention for the record, Earl got 3 standing ovations today, so I think that broke a record as a person for recognition. So just want to make sure that that's on for public and out. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your patience. I'll take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Dismiss.
Second.
Have a good night.